Welcome to the Carl B. Phillips Show, hosted by gospel music industry veteran, recording artist, songwriter, producer, radio announcer, and actor, Carl B. Phillips. Join Carl as he talks with gospel recording artists, producers, songwriters, pastors, and other creatives about music, ministry, and life. Get ready for another great conversation on the Carl B. Phillips Show.
This week's guest on the Carl B. Phillips Show, gospel recording artist Ashle Renee. Welcome to the Carl B. Phillips Show. I am Carl B. Phillips, Uncle Carl. Today's guest is a gospel recording artist who began singing and playing music at an early age. Her music offers multicultural musical sounds, and her style is retro. Please help me welcome Ashle Renee. What's going on, young lady?
Thank you for having me. This is like, I don't ever take it for granted when anybody wants to talk to me. So, and hear what I have to say. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
It's good to be here.
You're being here. I've been following you for the past couple of years, and I'm just amazed at all that you do and everything. We'll get into that. So as I stated, I'm going to ask a very random question. What's your favorite way to relax after a long day?
Outside of just sitting in one spot and staring at a wall, I like to paint.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to paint. I'd like to just anything that kind of like makes you focus on something else, and painting kind of does that. I'm by far no Van Gogh or anything like that, but I do like to paint.
Okay. So we may have an art show coming up down the road of all your paintings.
Oh,
No.
no. But I mean, they're not too bad, but I'm definitely not like.
No.
I can show you one if you want to see.
Yeah, let us see one. You got one in your life?
Oh my goodness. I'm letting you into my nerd. I'm definitely a nerd. So
that's okay.
I did this one a while ago.
Wow.
And I know that was a random question, but I just so happen to have one hanging on the wall. So
that's a good. I could not do that. The creative.
Oh, yes, you could. It's just shapes and colors.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to challenge myself one day to do shapes and colors.
Yes.
And long as I'm not restricted to color within the lines. Creators, we got to think outside the box.
Listen, that's where the best work happens, when you're outside the lines.
Most definitely. You started singing and playing piano at an early age. Who inspired you to pursue music when you were a young person?
I'd have to say my mother and my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have never thought it, but my grandmother used to have this big rig in her room. Like, it was a record player attached to these big speakers. And she was a big country and Western fan. So like, I grew up listening to country music, and one of her other favorite artists was Paul Simon. And my mom is like a walking jukebox. Like, she can tell you the song, the year it came out, the artist, like all of those things. And I don't even know if she plays any instruments. She just has that gift, that mind for music. So that's where my inspiration came from.
So you brought back plenty memories for me, because I'm a boomer. And my mother had that long stereo that had three speakers on the side, and you had to pull a little door to get into the stereo, and it had the 45s that were dropped out. So I'm telling my age.
Yep, she had that too. And we'd be up there cleaning, the music was playing, and my grandmother was big with like arts and crafts. So we do crafts and music was playing, and like I said, like country music was her thing. So it was Conway Twitty, Charlie Pride, Willie Nelson, all of those guys that I grew up knowing their songs.
What was one of your favorite country songs from those times?
I'd have to say If I had to pick one, uh, I believe it was Kanye Twitty. I almost said Kanye West. Conway Conway Twitty, and the song was "He Stopped Loving Her Today." I don't know why I love that song, but when that part came, he stopped loving her today. Like I was just like, I love this song. That's one of my favorite. That one in Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. So
Yeah. So maybe down the road, because we're in the country now, maybe we can get a gospel country album out of you.
listen, I have a country song
Okay.
on my last EP I put out. It's a plethora of things, but one of them is a country song. I love country music. I always have. So
Well,
that is not that is a we could do that.
Kenny, you hear that? We need a country album.
Yep.
If Beyonce can do it, Ashley can do it.
Sure can.
Tamla
Sure
Man doing
can.
country, you can do country.
I love it. I love it. And you don't find um the writing in country music is really what does it for me. Like even some of the contemporary country that's out today, like just the stories that are told, like it's just about family and life and love, and their pen to me is untouched. That is just one of my favorite things about it.
I would definitely agree with you on that. You're a gospel singer. When did singing gospel music become a passion for you?
Um, I'd have to say in college. I grew up in church. I've always been in church. But I think when I was in college, um, I started not just going to church, but becoming the church.
Mhm.
You know, I got that real understanding of who God was and who He was to me. And at the time, I was more into like neo soul and R&B, that style of music. So um, once I started like really building my relationship with Christ, then that's when the switch flipped. So I'd say since probably my freshman year in college, freshman sophomore year.
So when you were in college, who were some of the artists you were listening to, gospel artists?
Um, well, the same ones I kind of grew up listening to. Israel Houghton was a big one.
Mhm.
Donnie McClurkin was a big one, and they're two of my like all-time favorite artists because they introduced me to um, music outside of my culture.
Okay.
They like, Israel did that album Alive in Africa that was different. Even like he experimented with reggaeton, and he had like a lot of different South African music.
Mhm.
When he had Johnny, what was his name? Jonathan Butler was on one of his projects, which is another one of my favorite artists. But him and Donnie McClurkin, like he was doing concerts overseas, singing songs in different languages. And for me, that was just like, oh my gosh, this is like the greatest thing ever. And so that is really kind of those two artists in particular inspired me to create the kind of music that I create. It's music that's not bound by a particular culture, but it shows actually how big the kingdom of God is. It includes all of those things. So, when you listen to my music, you'll hear like some salsa, you'll hear reggae, you'll hear country, you'll hear samba. It's just a big melting pot of things, but it's just my way of showing how big the kingdom is, and that we're not limited in our sound.
Well, you said something interesting, and I find that a lot of uh, young adults, once they get to college,
Mm.
they knew of God, but something about being in college, you find God for yourself.
Mm.
What was that journey like for you? Because you talked about it, but what was that journey like for you once you were in college, you're out on your own, and it's like, God is real. What was that journey like?
Well, it's an awakening. It's that time that you're not really under your parents. You're for the first time, like you're really on your own. You're making some decisions on your own. You're making some bad decisions on your own. And it's, I'm grateful for my parents, my mother, who gave me that foundation. Mm-hmm. You know, so even though I wasn't like in her home anymore, I still had that foundation of Christ. So, you know, when I got to college, that's when he became my God, not mommy's God, not daddy's God, not grandma's God, you know, not my pastor's God, but my God, God that I knew God as a forgiver. I found out God to be a healer. I found out God to be a protector, all of those things. So that's really when it started, because I no longer had that kind of like, oh, I'm going to run to mommy. You know, it was really a time of growing up. And I don't say this in a bad way, but like I grew up pretty sheltered. Like I wasn't like all over the place, always out of the house, kind of here and there kind of kid. Like my mom didn't play that. I was home. Okay. I was home. So, you know, when I actually went to college, you know, I think some people thought I might like just go crazy because it was like the most freedom that I had, but it was almost like the opposite. I kind of stayed in that shell. I had some experiences, but at the same time, it was just like, okay, God, well, I'm here now. So what are you expecting of me? What is Ashley's thing? You know?
And what was his answer?
Trust me. Wow. Yeah, like it my life has definitely been an adventure. Some good, some bad, but it's a reoccurring theme in my life. Trust me. And I think it's because my mind just naturally runs. It never stops running. It's always thinking. It's always seeing the problem, multiplying the problem, that like just all of that up here. So I always find myself in those spaces where it's just like, okay, God, what am I going to do now? Where am I going to turn now? How is this going to work out? And it's just like, trust me. And so even in the smallest things, the smallest acts of obedience, you know, God has shown himself to be faithful. It's just one thing that I say all the time: God is faithful, because that's just who I've learned him to be.
I think you bring up a good point, because a lot of times as creatives, we don't know how to shut our mind down. Mm-hmm. You know, you said earlier, sometimes you just like to go sit and look at a wall. That is challenging for a creative, mm-hmm. because if you're like me, I'm already 5 projects down the road. You know, it's challenging. Mm-hmm. But as a creative, how do you find that space to hear God, to give God that space to speak? How do you do that?
Well, and you know, not to be extra deep or anything, but staying in his word, honestly. Mm-hmm. When I write a song, I go to scripture first. And, you know, I ask God, well, what do you want me to say? How do you want me to say it? And he will give, like, you will not hear a song come from me and there's no scripture reference. There's no word in there. You will always know who I'm talking about. And so that's one thing that helps, going to him first. And then my creativity comes second, you know, and that's how I keep myself into perspective. Because I got ideas, things I want to do. I want to sing it this way. I want to hear horns here. I want to hear this. But what am I saying? What is the message? What is the most important part? And I think that kind of keeps me together as a creative, by just scripture wise, acknowledging him first in all of my ways, and he will direct, and he has directed.
Wow.
Yeah.
I follow you on social media, on Instagram. And one thing that I admire about you is the fact that family is first for you. Mm. Why do you put great emphasis on family?
Because at the end of the day, your family becomes a representation of you. Scripture says that, you know, family is your first ministry. But it's what I believe it's what God has us to do for those of us that are that have children, and that is our life. It like I'm the first example my children see of God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm their first example of faith. I'm their first example of obedience. I'm their first example of how to treat someone and how to, all of those things. So I've turned down a lot of things because family is first. And it's like my life would be in vain if I didn't nurture and grow what God trusted me to nurture and grow. Mm-hmm. So it becomes not so much about me, but about what I'm sending out into the world as a representative of not just me, but of God. And so that's important to me. Seeing my children growing up, making sure they don't feel neglected, making sure that they know that their mother is here, making sure that they know that they have a safe place, that they have, a place that they can call home. They have, that's important. It's important to me. And I think it's even more important because I have wonderful parents. Like I cannot say anything bad about them. But I did come from a broken home. Like my parents divorced when I was younger. And, with that comes a lot of different dynamics and, that feeling of not really being connected over here, not really being connected over here, and that, that kind of thing. So it was just one of those things that I didn't want to birth a generation that could say that they were forgotten or they weren't thought about, they weren't prioritized. So,
So I think you bring up a good point, because a lot of times for those of us that are active in ministry, I've started saying this lately, we don't have ministry life balance. And I think it's important for those of us that do ministry to understand that it's okay to go on vacation with your family. Mm-hmm. It's okay sometimes if you miss a Sunday morning to spend time doing something. It's okay, like you said, to turn some things down because there's something that's more important than me going to this gig. Mm-hmm. As you look at your family, how did you get to that place of ministry life balance?
If I could be completely honest, it started with necessity. I did myself go through a divorce, so it was a very, very difficult time. And it was me and my 3 kids, and I'm just like, well, what are we gonna do about it? Am I gonna sit here and cry, or, am I gonna do what I gotta do? And so that kind of was the start of it. And it just, even as I started to pursue things that I felt like God was calling me to, He always made a way for me to do that with my kids, whether it was me taking them with me or, having someone that I trusted that could watch them. But most of the time they were with me. And, I was clear about that with people that I worked with. And like, there have even been times where I've had like interviews, and what my youngest son was a little smaller at the time, and he was like, "Mom," and he just ran over here, or "Mom, I gotta go to the bathroom," and I'm just like, it's funny now that I think about it. At the time, I was mortified, but now that I'm thinking about it, just being in the little things, just being able to be there, for my children. And let them know that they could be with me, and that they're, this is ministry. It's ministry. You need to be able to see, your parents spread the gospel. You need to be a part of that. And I hope, as my kids grow older and mature, that they'll have that testimony, that they've seen their parents tell people about Jesus. They've seen, their mother sing about the Lord and tell other about it. So I would say that it started out of necessity. It's because I didn't have a choice. And, you know, I believe God does all things well. So I did what I had to do.
One thing that I saw recently about your family, y'all got a whole bunch of birthdays in June.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Don't ask me how. I don't know. But my birthday is June 5th. So I was the first. My daughter's birthday is June 3rd. My oldest son is June 25th. And my youngest son is June the 4th. Now, it was really funny when he was being born because we were like, well, he's got to pick a day. So he's either going to come on his sister's birthday or he's going to come on my birthday, but he kind of fell right in the middle. So when June starts, it's chaos. 3, 4, 5, and then we get a little break until the 25th.
So how, with everybody's birthday being in June, how do you ensure no one feels slighted?
I think it gets harder the older they get. But you know, when they were a little younger, my thing is we do everything together. Like that's just it. There's no compromise on that. So I usually let everybody can pick something that they want to do on their day. So I remember one year my daughter wanted to do pottery. So we went to paint pottery. And then my son was the next day and he wanted to go to the zoo. So then we went to the zoo. And then my birthday, it doesn't count anymore. So my day was just what it was. And then my oldest son for his birthday, what did he want to do that year? Sky Zone or something like that. But we always did it together. And so even I remember COVID time, right? I just randomly was looking at flights. I found 4 round trip tickets to Florida, to Orlando for $200. I said, well, I'm going to book these tickets. I don't know when I'm going to use them, but I'm going to book them. And I surprised the kids. We all went to Disney in that December, but they knew the prerequisite was we got to do it together. I don't care if it's a ride. If you're too scared for it, if y'all can't come to an agreement, then we don't do it, but we always do it together. And so that's one of the things that I try that's important to me when it comes to my children is letting them know that we do it together. You know, and now it's a little more difficult because, you know, the oldest one, he's 15 and he's in his little teenager, really, you know, but we still do it together. So
that kind of leads me to my next question. This is the next random question. What is your favorite thing to do on vacation with your family?
So I'm very adventurous. So it's really whatever. Like if we see a mountain, okay, let's go climb it. If we find something else that there's really, my favorite thing to do is find adventures and make memories. The last one we had, my mother actually lives in Hawaii. So she lives on Oahu. So we got it together and we all flew out there to go and see her. And we hit the ground running. Like it was just every single day we were doing something. We went to see a mountain. We were at the beach. We were at the cultural center. We were at museums and those kind of things. So for me, it's my favorite thing to do is make memories, having adventures with my children.
So this year I discovered being in the mountains and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Because I always thought, I don't want to be around mountains. So tell me, would you prefer to be on a beach somewhere chilling or up in a mountain somewhere chilling?
Honestly, I'd pick a mountain because I hate sand. It's just like a never-ending plague. Like you just can't get rid of it. It gets in everything. I'm still cleaning sand out of things from being in Hawaii. So mountains, I find that I like to marvel at creation, so it's just I love looking. That's one thing Hawaii did have a lot of, and that was like mountain views and just green. Oh, it was beautiful. And
It's interesting because when you're in the mountains, like I said, this was my first year doing being around mountains,
Mhm.
and I never realized the peace that you can have in being in the mountains. So I'm Googling why are mountains so peaceful? And they talked about how when you're in the mountains, you feel closer to God.
Mm, that could definitely be it. It is a different kind of serenity, to just be above everything,
Yeah.
and that's I pray that sometimes, not in like a haughty way, like, oh, I just want to be above it. No, it's like I want to be above my issues, above my day to day, so you get a clearer view, that eagle eye view that's above the clouds, that's out of the chaos, out of the noise, and you can think better. That's why I like it.
I'm hearing a song coming out of you right now.
Listen, let me get my notes out.
God, I want to be above.
Above, yeah. I mean, and if you look at it, like our day to day is so inundated with everything from social media to our jobs, from like you're just in the midst of everything. So it's hard, especially as a creative, trying to quiet that mind when everything else is not quiet, you
Right.
know? So like when I've had the chance to be in those kind of settings where I was above things, it takes a minute for like my mind to calibrate to just, come down. But then once it's down, it's just like, God, what are you saying? God, what do you want me to see?
It
What do you
is
want me
so
to
peaceful.
know?
Yeah, and I was thinking a lot of times, the Bible says, speak to your mountains and your mountains will move. But
Mhm.
sometimes what I've learned this year, embrace the mountain
Embrace it.
and just
Mhm.
embrace that space. Like you said, that quietness where you can just sit and just enjoy the air, just enjoy
Mhm.
the peace.
Amen.
Yeah. So you began your recording career in 2016. Talk about the journey from church singer to recording artist.
Hmm. I don't think I've ever stopped being a church singer. I still sing in church every Sunday. I'm a praise and worship leader at my church. I go to El Bethel Community Cathedral here in New Jersey, and there's really no transition for me.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's a different it's a difference, because church is more communal, it's more congregational, so that transition to, independent was a little different for me because I'm not the front and center type,
Mhm.
believe it or not. Like I tell people to this day, I don't like singing in front of people. Don't ask me why. I don't know. It's still a thing. I still get nervous. I'm scared all the time. But like I'm definitely not that person that's going to run up and be like, give me the mic. Mm-mm. So if I'm singing, it's because God told me to, or that's where I was placed. So, um, but yeah, there's really been no transition. It's just been from one, I guess, platform, if you will, to another. And I keep that because I feel like it's a place that you could become arrogant in really, really quickly.
Right.
So I just thank God for humility. And yeah.
I was doing an interview with one young man, and he's a worship leader plus a recording artist. And he
Mm.
was like, how do you separate the artistry that you do outside of church from the ministry that you do in church? Do you ever find it challenging because your artistry is so unique, but then when you come into church, you have to move kind of into a different vein? Do you ever find that challenging for you?
um I think that I'm kind of blessed in that matter because my church doesn't ask me to be anything that I'm not.
Mhm.
How my style, the way I sing, it's just the same. And the only difference is I can't even say it's a difference, but it's not about me. It's about what the people need in that moment, where God is trying to take a people. When you get to the recording artist side of it, it's it's a little more about you because people are looking at you more,
Mhm.
but the goal is still the same. Like, where are we taking the people? What do they need? What do they need to hear? What does God want them to hear? I don't separate that. I just think the delivery changes a little bit.
So
Um,
even though the platform might change, your delivery remains the same.
mhm. It's still about Jesus. Don't matter where I go.
If it's in front of 5 people or 5,000.
That's it. It's always going to be the same. And I can't be anything more than what I am. So you're going to get nerdy geek praise and worship leader at my church, and you're going to get nerdy geek praise and worship leader on my own stuff, but it just, and I'm grateful for that because there was a time where I kind of struggled to be comfortable in who I was, and I see like sometimes that there's kind of like that push to become something else, like to conform to a standard, to be, and this, like, I'm not being shady or anything because people are where they are because God placed them there. But, it's nice to look up to people, but you don't have to be them,
Right.
and I kind of take pride in knowing that, there's only one me. God only created one me. So I'm going to do my best to be that me.
And I think that's important. Discovering your voice, being
Mm-hmm.
comfortable in your skin,
Mm-hmm.
being comfortable with who God created you to be. And a lot of times, I think we as a people look at others and aspire to be who they are. Oh, this is
Mm-hmm.
who I am.
Yep.
This is how I sing. This is how I write, and I'm cool with it. Now you may have to adjust to it,
Mhm.
but this is who I
I'm
am.
cool with it. And I remember this was so crazy. This was a few years ago. A friend of mine had sent my song in for this like artist showcase. It was like, when what was the name of that app?
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse. So, they had like this room where they were reviewing songs and stuff like that. So they put my song in there, and it was a song that I have that's called Supply. And it's very like 1940s big band swing kind of thing, and they just didn't know what to do with it. It was just kind of like, it wasn't really anything bad. They just didn't know what to do with it. And so, one of the people in the room said, maybe you should try to make music that's a little more streamlined, a little more in the box, something a little more palatable for the everyday listener. And I said, well, I appreciate your feedback. But it's just one of those things. Like, you're either going to be who you are, or you're going to let people make you feel like you have to be something else.
Uh,
And
It's
mm,
interesting because a part of what we do as artists is industry related,
mm-hmm.
but you have to be cautious because you'll try so hard to do things for the industry and
Yeah,
lose your identity.
yeah.
And a lot of times, even within the industry is looking for something different,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of leads me to my next question.
Oh.
I became a fan of yours back in 2021 when we were all hanging out in Clubhouse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I probably was in one of those rooms that you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
So beyond the music, one of the things that I remember everyone talking about was the vintage album cover,
Hmm.
the Same God EP. What attracts you to that vintage retro style?
So I grew up, my mother is a like big black and white old movies fan. Like, I watched all of it. Betty Davis, Judy Garland, Shirley Temple, John Wayne, like you name it, Greta Garbo, like all of these people I grew up watching. But one movie I watched really stuck with me, and it was Cabin in the Sky. And that it had Lena Horne in it. Lena Horne, Ethel Waters, Duke Ellington and his band. a lot of big names for the day were in that. And that was like my first time seeing like classy looking Black folks. I don't want to, I don't want to make it about color, but for me, it was a thing. It was like, wow, and so when I was that young, I was just like, man, I want to dress like that when I get older. Like, that's what I want to look like. And my mom too, she had, when I was younger, she had a vintage flair. She had a thing for hats. So she, wore all kinds of hats. And, but I grew up watching those shows and seeing the women and how they dressed, and they were so elegant and feminine. And I just love that, matching shoes with the matching gloves, and everybody's always so put together. I know that's not real life, but I love that. And I love the fashion. My favorite era is 1940s to the 50s. Like that era of fashion to me is like the best that ever was. So that's kind of what got me into it. Watching old movies and just admiring the class of the day.
So I could see you doing a black and white video for one of your.
Definitely could.
Yeah.
I just did one not too long ago. It was crazy. I kind of put it out late, but it was it was set in like this 1950s diner.
Okay.
And that's the video we did for Wishes. So it was a lot of fun to do. I was a waitress, it was cool.
So let's talk about Wishes.
Mm-hmm.
When I listened to the lyric that stuck out to me, I wish that things could be different, had more patience, made better decisions. What's the story behind those lyrics?
What is it? The story behind those lyrics? So, as I said, I'm an overthinker. I really am. And some things that have happened in my life were just like, God, did I have to go through that? Like, did I have to, and you start to think, you start to, evaluate your decisions. And there are some things that I did just out of haste, just moved too fast. And that's where that came from. I wish that things could be different. I wish I had more patience and made better decisions. And that's really what it is. And it all boils down to me putting on myself more than God wanted to put on me. Mm. And that's why the reoccurring thing, just trust me. Like if I leaned more into that, I think things could have been different. Now that's not to say that we all don't have a way that we have to go, because God knows, He knows the way that we have to go to get us where we need to be. But it talks about that yoke. That's really what the song is about. We weight ourselves down with so many things that God didn't intend to weigh us down. He said His yoke is easy and it's light. His burden is light. The stuff that we put on ourselves is heavy, and so that was one of the things that made, life hard. It's not utilizing patience, moving too fast, overthinking everything. So yeah, it's real. I have not written a song that did not come straight out of something that I went through. So
like I said, those lyrics and the song itself just blows me away. I think you also bring up another point. A lot of times, even in walking with God, one of the hardest things to do is to forgive ourselves. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you find that challenging for you when you talk about, I wish things could be different? If I could just forgive myself, things could be different. Do you ever find that challenging for you?
All the time. All the time. All the time. And again, it goes back to some of it's the creative in me, some of it's the stubbornness in me, some of it is the, got to do it my way, got to do it quick, got to, but I do struggle with that. It is a challenge to just be able to say, like, God, like, show me where to go, show me who to talk to, show me what to do. And I found that even more challenging operating in music industry. Now, I'm not really connected to a lot. I don't move in a lot of circles or anything like that. But being led is important.
Right.
The right connections are important. God connections are important. And that's something that I've had to, just take my time with, and people ask me like, well, are you going to sing here? Are you coming here? Are you going to go to this kind of event or this? And I just like, God didn't tell me to do that. And a lot of that is I'm not really hungry for a stage. I'm not hungry for everybody's eyes to be focused on me. And so, and it took, some things had to happen in my life to have that kind of humility, and I'm not saying like it's an easy thing. Like everybody wants to be successful, when they're doing something, but it really had to come to a point where, well, who do you to see? Is the message of Christ eclipsed by everything that you're doing? Is your life taking people's eyes away from Christ? Is, what you say, even on social media? Like, I don't comment on everything. I don't share everything. I don't, and it's for a reason. It's because I never want my life to overshadow Christ.
Right.
I don't want my opinion to overshadow him. I don't want, my mistakes to overshadow him. None of that. So it took some doing, but I still struggle with that. I really do. It's a day-to-day thing.
You talked about connecting with the right people.
Mm.
You recently did a collaboration with, make sure I get this right, Renwick Dewsbury?
Renwick Dewsbury. You don't forget that name.
Okay, so you guys did the song God's Watching Over You.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get to a place to be comfortable to work with Renwick?
Who said I was comfortable? No, I'm just kidding. No, collaboration is interesting. And I say that because there has to be like an alignment too, and me, I'm very, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know how to explain it. I'm very like, and Renwick is very, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to rock. We're going to dance. We're going to do. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't dance. Oh my gosh, what are you asking me to do? Oh my, but it was a really, really great experience because it took me out my box a little bit. And I don't know how I did it. God did it.
It sounds like you're the introvert and he
Very,
was the introvert.
Very.
And he forced the introvert to come out of her comfort zone.
He definitely did. He definitely did. And I told him, I appreciate you, because I don't know. I could have never done, like, we did a shoot for the video, photo shoot. And he was like, yeah, well, while we're here, we're going to just shoot some content, so I'm going to play the music and, you just dance and do whatever you feel. And I'm like, did you just tell me to dance? And I don't know. Like, no, but I did it, and it was very freeing. It was a great experience. Renwick he's a great guy. Lots of energy, loves the Lord. Like, he doesn't just sing it, he really walks it. And that's one thing that I really appreciated about him. I didn't have any problem working with him because he walked the talk, so that's okay with me.
So what's next for Ashle Renee?
Whatever the Lord does. Whatever the Lord does. I have I'm working on some new things now, some new music, and um just waiting for him to show me where to put it and what to go after, where to go, what connections need to be made. Because I'm also understanding the older that I get that there really is more to me than music, you know. There is ministry in me. There's uh just things that I know that the Lord is calling me to, and music will always be for me. It will always be. Um but I'm just asking the Lord just to show me how to best use my gifts. So whatever the gifts are, I'm really asking him to guide me in that. But like definitely working on music, still want to put things out, still want to make videos and things like that just because that's the creative in me. I love visuals, I love goofy little ideas and things like that. So always going to be doing something.
Maybe you could do a video where you paint all the characters and they come to life. I don't know.
I'm gonna write that down because that's cool.
Show your nerdy side.
Yes. That'd be really cool. But yes, I love that. I love to give people a visual to go with the words. So um uh I'm really looking forward to all that the Lord is gonna do. I don't know all he's gonna do, but I'm gonna trust him.
So how can people reach you? How can they follow you on social media? How can they get your music?
uh everywhere I'm Ashley Renee, ASHLE Renee on Instagram. I'm Ashley Renee on Facebook. I'm Ashley Renee on Twitter. Not Twitter, TikTok.
TikTok, okay.
I don't really be on there either. But TikTok I feel like is kind of out my age bracket, but not really. But I'm getting there. But no, I'm everywhere. Every social media I'm at Ashley Renee.
I have really enjoyed this conversation with you. This has been amazing, just having this conversation and getting to learn about you. If you were to speak to someone that's just about to go to college,
Hmm.
what advice would you give them from leaving their parents' house and understanding who God is as they enter into college?
Ooh. Um well, before I answer that question, you are amazing. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And I pray that God continues to bless everything that you're endeavoring to do. The podcast, I pray that He touches it. Your station, I pray that He touches it. I pray that He brings you every godly connection that you could possibly need to be successful in spreading His message, because that's what you're doing. And I appreciate you. And I pray that God show you His hand this day and upward. Um, but if I had to give anybody some advice, I would just say, hold on to your foundation. And if you're a person that doesn't have a strong foundation, pray that God sends you some people that'll give you a strong foundation. Um, Pray that God sends you the right people to be in your corner, to be around you, to speak life into you. Um, because it makes a difference. My grandma used to say, you are the company you keep. So you got to make sure your company is good. You got to make sure that you surround yourself with like-minded people. And then don't be afraid to find out who you are. Because at that age, you're finding out who you want to be, who you want to become, the kind of person you want to be. And you don't have to rush that, but take the time to find out who you are, and don't let anybody or anything change that, because life is going to come at you, whether it's in heartbreak, whether it's in bad decisions, whether it's in letdowns, setbacks, all of those things. Life is going to come at you, but the consistent thing will be Christ in you, the hope of glory. So I would just say, take your time, find out who you are. And once you find that out, just keep growing on it, keep adding to it, keep asking God to refine it, and I said all those deep things to just say, stay focused and surround yourself with people that will help you stay focused. Don't surround yourself with everybody that's going to tell you yes, who's just going to tell you that every idea you have is a good one. No, you need to be challenged. You need to be held accountable. All of those things matter. So trust the Lord, allow him to guide you and lead you. It's not that you're not going to make mistakes, because you will, and we all do. But just know that when you do, he's standing right there waiting for you to get up, and he's going to help you get up. Condemnation comes from the enemy. It doesn't come from God. So
thank you so much for hanging out with Uncle Carl. This
Thank you.
Awesome. Everybody, make sure you go check out Ashle Renee's music. Check out Wishes. Check out her EP, Same God. Follow her on social media. And I always like to close by saying this. Remember to work like you don't need the money, love like you've never been hurt, and dance like dance like Ashle's dancing in this new video.
Listen, that's wisdom. Don't watch the dancing, but that is wisdom, okay?
All right, God bless you. Thank you so much, Ashle, for hanging out with us.
Thank you. God bless everybody. Thank you so much.
The Carl B. Phillips Show is produced by Carl B. Phillips for Prove Me Productions. For more information about Carl B. Phillips, visit carlbphillips.com. Subscribe to The Carl B. Phillips Show on YouTube or your favorite podcast outlet.